Pop music's fantastic, but there's nothing like the real thing. You can take the boy out of Russia, but you can't take Russia out of the boy. My father was a very, very fucking complicated motherfucker. He was on the HMAS Sydney, and he got off in Fremantle the day before it went out and sank. He lived the rest of his life with PTSD, there's no doubt. But with that Russian heritage, there was only one kind of classical music, you see, and one kind of music, and it was classical. And the pinnacle of human existence was Ashkenazi playing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 flawlessly, passionately, with fire, no mistakes, from memory. And I subsequently went into music, and I used to love just trying to wind him up and say, but there's other kinds of music, you see. What about when Brian May from Queen plays a fabulous guitar solo? Or what about Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull? He was a fabulous flautist. And it's not that he was dismissive of it. It's not that he just didn't have time for it. It just had no relevance to him. My mother was actually a fabulous singer and trod the boards and sang musical theatre, but he never really took it seriously because it wasn't the real thing. And on it went, and I used to try and wind him up, and as an arrogant teenager, want to start a fight. I mean, I would goad him with things like, well, you know, yeah, I know you don't buy German products, but I'm going to get a Porsche one day just to fuck with you. So it was very complicated. And on it went, and there was never any kind of agreement on that. Anyway, in my last year of high school, out of the blue, he came home with he'd gone and bought some 45 single, and I think he knew that I was finishing high school and I was about to travel overseas. And I think it was like a peace offering. Well, you know, here you go. You know, I'll play along with your whim, your popular music whim. I finished high school, and then I wanted to get out of here. I was raised in Mount Lawley, and my grandfather went to jail over here at the Fremantle jail. And my grandfather was also married to my grandmother at the old synagogue over here. I now play piano there. So I jumped on a plane and I went to the Middle East. I went to Israel on a course, and Andrea and some of these people know some of the alumni from this course. Our fabulous dear friend Russell Wolfe. Sacha Baron Cohen was an alumni of this course. So we went to Israel, and I was really just running away because I had this mess at home and was a very complicated, hybrid, weird Jewish upbringing of observance and nothing to do with God and nothing to do with spirituality, but every fucking Saturday you had to do this and couldn't have bacon and whatever it was. As my Canadian wife says, you know, you either like bacon or you're wrong. So so off I go to Israel, and I of course had been groomed, although everything was about music, I'd been groomed to come to do a medical degree. Because what do they say? The only time that a Jewish fetus is viable is when it's graduated from medical school. So I went to Israel, and then in those days we were trading, we could call on the phone, but we were trading cassettes, and 6 months away I'm going, well, there's no way that I want to do medicine. You've made me a musician. All my childhood heroes, Barenboim, Ashkenazi, Perlman, Stern, these are the people that you've put on pedestals, and you've paid for my piano lessons, and this is what you've made me, and I don't want to be a fucking doctor. So 6 months away, he said, well, if you're going to do music, you're going to do it properly. And he knew people. And he said, if you're going to do music, you're going to go to Juilliard. And I'm going to make some calls. And he knew people in the classical music world. He used to write reviews of concerts. And he then made some connections. So I made the inquiries and I practiced piano on a Bosendorf, a piano in a bomb shelter in the Golan Heights. And then at the end of my course, at the end of the year, it was in December, and I flew by myself. I was still only 17. And I flew to New York to audition for Juilliard. And I was staying with a family, a girl who I'd met in Israel, and I was staying with her family on Long Island, and I got the train into Manhattan and met the people in the forms and everything. I came home back to Long Island, and it was winter, of course, and they said, well, you've got to call Australia. You need to call your home. So I called home, and my brother answered the phone at my parents', and it was very strange. My brother said, Dad's just passed away. And I was in New York by myself. I was 17. And because he was an observant Jew, they would not delay the funeral. So there was no way that I could get from New York City, even if we chartered our own plane, to Perth, Western Australia, to go to the funeral. So I stayed for another 5 weeks as a really messed up kid. But I wasn't really that sad, because he was really weird and really complicated, and PTSD and all of this stuff. And it was just a really strange experience. And so I eventually, 5 weeks later, I flew back to Israel and gathered my possessions, and then I flew back to Perth. And funnily enough, on that flight from Singapore to Perth, some woman gave a friend of one of the other guys in the course a bunch of hashish, and we ate it, and I tripped for about 48 hours, and that's how I arrived home in Perth. And all we could actually think about was, it was really crazy. We'd spent a day in Melbourne. It was really crazy because my friend said, his parents said, what's the one thing you want when you get back? And he went, I want fish and chips. So we got to the airport, and his parents brought fish and chips to the airport. I'm flying back after 5 weeks away. My father's just died, and I just want fucking fish and chips. So I get back, and I don't want to do. I'm not going to do medicine. So the consolation prize, and everyone felt very sorry for me, and everyone didn't want to tell me what to do. Everyone was feeling very, I was eggshells around me, and oh my God, and he's been through this, and yada yada yada. So I could really do whatever I want. So I enrolled at UWA to do my Bachelor of Music degree. And that was a wild ride, and I was fortunate I had, a fabulous Roger Smalley was my piano teacher, but I kind of knew, the universe is the consummate casting agent, and I knew that I was not going to be a concert pianist, but I knew that I could do something in music. And so while we were not an affluent family, so while I was, and my dad had just died, and my mum was just hanging on, and Jesus, it was crazy. So I then started playing in a piano bar at the old Melbourne Hotel here in Perth upstairs. The bar was called Tiffany's. And at this stage, I just turned 18. And my dad, he died about 5 weeks before his 60th birthday. He was 59. And so I started playing, and I was making money, lots of money. I was this kid who could play piano and sing some songs, and it was just a whole crazy thing, and free booze and drinking and whatever it was. It was pretty crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, and no one told me what to do. No one was saying, you need to, focus and study and this and that, and I could do whatever I want. So I managed to scrape through barely 1 year of my Bachelor of Music degree because I was making a shitload of dough playing piano and singing songs at the old Melbourne Hotel at Tiffany's. And towards the end of that year, there was a band who were a quite well-known band, in fact, a very famous, very successful rock band, happened to be in Perth recording their third album. And it seemed that they were making this record, but they were going to frequent or come drinking at Tiffany's. Anyway, their original keyboard player left the band, and lo and behold, this opportunity arose for me, and I became a rock star overnight. I went from, doing what I was doing to being asked to join in this band. I got involved in recording the album. The first single off that third album by this band was a song that I co-wrote with the lead singer, and there I am, and I'm like maybe 18 and a half, almost 19. And it was a crazy thing. And then I went on and I did 1,200 concerts with that band, and I toured the world. And the band was called Mother Goose. And you guys may or may not remember that, depending on your age, your demographic. And their hit single was a song called Baked Beans. And the 45 that my dad had bought me in high school was that song. Thank you.